What is up? Good morning. Overreaction Monday in full effect. Welcome to Club Fantasy's newest show. It is called Monday's Hangxiety. We all have the hangover from yesterday from either drinking or just the abundance of wonderful football action that we were all waiting for. And we certainly have some anxiety. And I think that's going to be the main focus of this show is we're going to figure out what players you should trust, what players you shouldn't trust based on Sunday's performances. There's going to be three of us every week. You only see two of us on the screen right now because one of us is always late. And if you put two and two together, you know who we're missing. But not missing with me. Josh Hudson.
Don't razz her that way. Come on.
Oh, she expects it, especially after yesterday. But Josh, how are you this morning, buddy?
Not quite as hungover as I usually am. So that's a good thing. I take that as a win. But I'm honestly beaming. You know, the Eagles got to win. It was ugly towards the end, but we got to win. And I know Kyra and I will talk about that here shortly when she gets her computer restarted because, you know, things happen. But
I was going to say, if you're new to Club Fantasy, there are a couple of things you can always expect from us. We try to have fun with these shows. We are here to help you win fantasy football matches. And if Kyra Wiaterowski is on the show, there are probably technical difficulties. We saw it yesterday in the DFS and Chill show. We're seeing it this morning already with her computer, but we're going to keep the ball rolling. Kyra will be here with us in just a few moments, and it needs to be soon because one of the very first segments is all about Kyra Wiaterowski and Josh Hudson's favorite team, but we'll get into that in a second. Let's start with injuries, and I want to give a shout out. Michael, you're here with us damn near every show. Happy to have you, buddy. Appreciate you. Joe Zolo, ready to get to the Comet slander. Don't worry, it's coming. Thanks for everybody in the chat. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. We're going to do our best to answer them. We'll probably try to fill them in between segments, but you're going to get answers from us because that's what this show is all about. That's what Club Fantasy is all about. We're going to start with injuries, and Josh had to work the late night on the injuries because the most important injury of the entire week happened towards the end of last night's game. Dak Prescott is going to need surgery on his throwing hand, and he is going to be out several weeks. I believe
they just announced 6 to 8.
6 to 8 weeks. So if you are wondering, Dallas Cowboys season, absolutely over. Go Eagles. Unless they can
Eagles fly, baby.
Unless they can somehow make a trade. It's all bad. You couldn't trust CeeDee
Garoppolo, maybe.
Yeah, you couldn't trust CeeDee Lamb with Dak Prescott. I don't know that you're going to be able to trust him with Cooper Rush, but the targets were there. CeeDee Lamb might come up later on in the show. But it's all bad in Dallas right now. Dak Prescott out for the next 2 months. Baltimore lost their offensive tackle, Jamal James. Torn Achilles, done for the year. They were already having offensive line problems. We all know about the problems they're having at running back injuries. Not looking great for the Baltimore running game right now, but maybe we see more passes because of that. T. Higgins left the game with a concussion. Concussions are always weird. You could be a 3-week thing, could be a 1-week thing. We'll see how that goes. Naji Harris left the game with an ankle injury. It's considered just to be a rolled ankle. There were rumors after the game it was an aggravation of his Liz Frank. He did leave the stadium in a walking boot, but it's sounding like he's going to be good to go. Harrison Butker with an ankle injury, and then after seeing a safety miss 2 kicks right away, they said, let's get Harrison Butker back into the game as quickly as possible. and turns out they didn't need him. They could have let that safety kick the entire game. But how about those kickoffs, Josh? I know you don't care about kickers. Josh literally put that this is only for me because I'm one of the few people in the Lindellians world that kickers do absolutely matter. But how about that safety booting that ball out of the back of the end zone? You had to have been impressed by that. That was pretty damn cool.
That was impressive, not going to lie.
I love that.
Not easy. My little cousin, he's a senior kicker down in Miami in Norland.
I remember you mentioning that.
Like I've seen him go through like his warm-ups and all these things. Like it is not easy. So I'm slowly gaining an appreciation for kickers. I still think it's arguably the most unpredictable position, especially in fantasy. But yeah, like it's not easy, no matter how you.
And I think we actually agree on that, but I think where you don't like it because of how unpredictable it is, I consider it the dice roll. I'm like, let's roll that kicker out there, see if I get snake.
We already have that with defenses, so I mean,
very true.
I don't need 2 of them in the lineup.
Defense still far easier to predict than tight ends. We'll talk about that later too. Keenan Allen, hamstring injury. They're basically telling you do not expect him to be playing on Thursday already. He's going in for an MRI today to see how bad it actually is. He plays Thursday against the Chiefs. It's not happening. If you have Keenan Allen, plan to be without Keenan Allen. Mac Jones, back injury, x-rays negative. That still doesn't explain, the game and Mac Jones, but that's a whole other problem that x-rays were never going to show the problem. Wan'Dale Robinson, a knee injury, did not return to the game. Very weird game for the Giants. Very weird usage of their wide receivers in that game. Maybe the most important injury to me outside of Dak Prescott is edge rusher for Pittsburgh. TJ Watt is saying he likely has a torn pec. He literally announced it as he was walking off of the field. That's not good. And if it ends up being a torn pec, he is likely done for the season. For anybody who plays in IDP leagues, that's a rough injury to deal with. And before I get to the rest of the injuries, we are going to bring in our third host, Kyra Wiaterowski.
Hey, I made it, guys. I'm so
rocking
sorry.
the Women of Fantasy shirt.
Everything's messed up. Just bear with me.
Well, I see you fixed your angle so you don't have a highlighted Eagles logo like above your head, but I still think you're going to need to move that camera up a little bit. Though I do love seeing the Women of Fantasy shirt. So
I didn't have the time to do that today because I unplugged my computer on accident and that took like 4 hours to load. So here we are.
It is all good. We're just glad to have you. We're just going through some injuries. We're almost to the end. Elijah Mitchell, not Elijah Moore. Elijah Mitchell suffered a knee injury, did not return to the game. No word on that one yet that I've heard. And then Chris Godwin, hamstring injury, did not return to the game. You obviously, with ACL injuries, people will always talk about it's not a re-aggravation of the ACL you need to worry about. It's the kind of domino injuries that tend to come from that. And I think that's what we're already starting to see with Chris Godwin. We do have some questions already. So let's go ahead and knock out some quick questions. And then we'll let Josh and Kyra wax poetically about their Eagles for just a second. So actually, do we have questions? So we have one, two. Yeah, just one. Our boy JAC, I don't think we've seen you again this season unless you were on the Saturday show that I'm no longer a part of. But welcome back. Glad to have you back. Should we be concerned about Alvin Kamara after 1 week? I don't remember if either one of you guys have Kamara in your notes. Is that going to be covered later? So are you guys concerned after Alvin Kamara 1 week?
I'm honestly not that worried yet. I mean, it's first game back for Jameis. He's finding himself a rhythm. They worked the three wide receivers in. All of them ran pretty evenly in terms of routes run. I mean, we kind of saw this last year too, like in the beginning of the season where Kamara was mostly just kind of riding the running wave and not really as involved in the passing game. And things kind of worked itself out. So I'm not panicking yet. If I start seeing it repeatedly, then I'll start worrying.
I want to ask Michael if you could clarify here, because I think you mean Huntley. And if you mean Tyler Huntley to Dallas, that is an interesting rumor because I like Tyler Huntley a lot. And that would be a very interesting move there. Kyra, I'm going to let you talk about, the Dallas situation as we lead into the very first segment of the show. Josh has called it Up with the Birds. I am here with two Eagles fans. I am a former Eagles fan.
That was Kyra's suggestion on the title.
Even better. Great job, Kyra. I'm a former Eagles fan, a huge Donovan McNabb supporter, so I'm still happy when the Eagles win, but not nearly as happy as these two. So, Kyra, not only did the Birds get a great win yesterday, wonderful showing by your guy, A.J. Brown, who I'm sure you're going to talk about, but maybe more importantly, and we don't victory lap injuries here, but you're Eagles fans, you got to be happy that the Dallas Cowboys are not looking good as division competition at this point.
Yeah, there's no way that I'm happy that Dak got hurt. I'm not that kind of Eagles fan where I'm just like, hell yeah, let's easy way into the first place in the NFC East. I'm not cool with that, but we're going to just go back to even how they looked with Dak in the game. Like, I think that the Cowboys, the offensive line, the one Steele, I think his name was, their one offensive lineman had three penalties within 10 minutes of each other. They were playing super sloppy. The offensive line has just been banged up. It's not really helping them very much. And then you had Dak Prescott. I mean, none of those wide receivers were getting open. Nothing looked good out there. CeeDee Lamb wasn't just what we want him to be. He's not just commanding that target share where he's just open. He's elite. It's been ugly for them. Even the run game. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we could credit it a little bit to Tampa Bay's rushing defense. Didn't really get going. That was one of the most uneventful Sunday night games we could have got for week one.
Yeah, you even said that in the chat. Could it have been more boring? So.
It was just, honestly, it put us all to sleep for the night. I guess it helped us decompress and calm down from the exciting 1 o'clock and 4 o'clock games.
Josh, if you are talking, you're not even showing as muted. I think your mic's out. There we go.
Yeah.
But let's not focus on Dallas. Josh, talk us into some great Eagles talk here.
I mean, AJ Brown, like that was really the story, right? Like, dude came out firing on all cylinders, 10 catches, 145 yards, I think it was. I think the biggest worry so far, and I'm not panicking just yet, Devonta Smith, goose egg. Like that's not what you want to see. I know there's obviously a lot going with, Hurts and AJ Brown, and I don't know if maybe this was just like, trying to work out like the first week, like, hey, we're going to light the world on fire because this is the big, acquisition of the summer. But the only way this offense is truly going to be successful is if they get both those guys, Brown, Smith, and then including Goddard into that. Like, we saw what Miles Sanders can do. We've known what Miles Sanders can do. And all three running backs scored a touchdown. I'm okay with that. Let's keep that train going. Like, we knew the positive regression was coming. So all about that. The defense really hit or miss. I just kind of think Gannon took his foot off the gas a little towards the end of the game, and that's really what allowed the Lions to get back in it. But I mean, DeAndre Swift did his thing, and if that's what's going to be the norm this year, last year we couldn't stop tight ends. This year we can't stop running backs apparently. So somebody's going to have a field day against the Eagles defense every week. So we'll see who it's going to be. But I was definitely encouraged by James Bradbury. I mean, the pick six was kind of a lucky bounce, but hey, pick six is a pick six, so I'll take it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, AJ Brown had nearly 45% target share in that game. That's just like otherworldly, but that kind of, I love it, but I don't love it. Like for Jalen Hurts, we want to see him improve as a passer. And you know what? Actually, we did pass more in this game. That was something that we were concerned about, was seeing like, oh, how are the Eagles going to deploy their offense? Are they going to be super run heavy again? Like, what are we doing there? And they actually did pass a lot more. That was good. That was a positive for us. We still need to see him improve a little bit more. I'd love to see him spread the ball around. Devonta Smith, 2 targets, 0 points. That's not it. That's not something to get excited about. So definitely maybe it was like the coming out party for AJ Brown, where, he just wanted to pepper him with targets and prove a point that, hey, this is what to expect out of AJ Brown from us. So, hopefully that changes. I know, like, for whatever it's worth, after the game, I know that Jalen Hurts, made a comment to Devonta Smith, like, hey, you're going to get yours. Like, don't worry. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's like you're with your friend group and you like your one friend a little bit better than the other. So you like, you kind of got to reassure them and be like, oh man, I'm just sleeping over his house tonight. Like I'm going to next week,
Exactly.
So hopefully it's not something like that, where he has to like coddle him into it. But yeah, I think that was kind of like just a fluky occurrence. I don't think that that's going to be an every week thing, 45% target share to AJ Brown. That'd be insane.
I will say, like, Hurts' lack of completion percentage.
So that's what I was.
They're not going to win many games if he has to throw the ball that much and is only completing that, so few passes.
And 32 pass attempts is not an extremely.
No, I think that's honestly about average with how I did my projections with him.
Yeah.
I did it about 31, 32. So I'm not mad about that. But again, the Eagles aren't going to win very many games if he's only completing 50 to 55% of his passes. And that was the whole reason that everybody was like, oh, Hurts can be the overall QB1 because we know the rushing upside. They get him a primetime weapon. The accuracy is going to improve. Haven't seen it. And I understand it's one game, but, and he's got to get into a rhythm, and I get that. But if you're only focusing on one player, who, by the way, most of AJ Brown's career catch percentage is around 61, 62. Like, he's not a 70% catch guy. So that percentage isn't going to improve. And you know how it does? You target Devonta Smith, who actually can catch the football. So they've got to get Smith worked into this offense.
Yeah, he's got to come off of that one read stuff. He's got to be reading the field a little bit better. No doubt about it. But we also can't discredit. I mean, the Lions' defensive line initially, like, I don't know if our O-line, at first just needed to like get like smacked in the teeth or something. But the defensive line for the Lions was killing us. Aiden Hutchinson looked fantastic. He was, we were getting a lot of pressure. They were getting a lot of pressure on Hurts initially. So I'll give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt for that. Like, first half, they just kind of got dominated by the Lions defense, really.
And
it
tight
evened
end
itself
targets.
out, but
I say 5 tight end targets is also very different for this offense. And I think that's an issue, not an issue, but that's part of the completion percentage because usually the tight end target is the safer route. So you'd like to see Dallas Goedert more involved as well. So.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. The first segment guy. Oh, go Kyra. No, please.
Oh, so I was just going to say, again, the Miles Sanders thing, me personally, I mean, a lot of these running backs ate, and I mean, that even includes Jalen Hurts himself. If you watch the game, you saw him rush for, he had 17 carries, that's crazy. Compared to Miles Sanders, who had 13. It was great to see him get involved because, he went for 96 yards and a touchdown. That's fantastic. This was still pretty split up backfield. Gainwell himself had 5 carries. Boston Scott, 4 carries. Everyone got a touchdown, including if you want to count Jalen Hurts as a running back, 4 rushing touchdowns. Yeah. I would like to see that improve for Jalen Hurts too. Like instead of just abandoning the idea of throwing the ball and just rushing it right in, I like to see him pass a little bit more in the end zone, some more passing touchdowns. I think on the one where he actually took it in, I felt like he had AJ Brown there. He should have went for it, but
whatever. He walked into the end zone though.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about that. Like he literally
might not be
walked,
that one. It might be one where he tried to and then it didn't work out. I can't remember, but I remember thinking like, why didn't you just dump it to AJ Brown right there? Like, so that might not be that specific one, but I remember seeing it and being like, oh, he tried to force it or something, the run. So
hey, all in all, it was a W. I say it was a W, and you guys
ugly win, but I'll take it.
Exactly. First segment, we are just straight up calling the hangover, and this is going to be our biggest head scratcher of the week. And Kyra, we are going to start with you. What has you puzzled after the Sunday game?
So it has me pissed off, actually. I really like the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Raiders. So I was really heavy on Mike Williams. Keenan Allen goes down. You almost think, holy shit. This is gonna hit in a major way. You know what I mean? We think the changing of the tide is gonna happen. How can Mike Williams not absolutely smash in this matchup? And I'm just gonna quote some things just to know how involved really Mike Williams was out there. This is from Matthew Betts. He posted this on Twitter yesterday. Mike Williams plays 62 out of 67 snaps. It's 92% of the snaps. He ran 31 routes of the 34, 91%. And somehow had only 4 targets for a 13% target share, 2 catches for 10 yards, 2 shitty drops, no Keenan Allen. I don't get it. Well, I do get it, actually, because what Justin Herbert did, very similar to kind of what Patrick Mahomes did and talked about, the ball was literally distributed to 11 different receivers, and nearly all of them had 4 targets. So if this is what we expect out of Justin Herbert, he's going to spread the ball around. Has me a little concerned. So maybe this was just a week 1 thing. Week 1 has always got some weird stuff going on, but that was very frustrating. Big head scratcher to me is how Mike Williams didn't take up that opportunity and run with it.
And then I want to throw one more quick thing out. If you've followed Club Fantasy or especially DFS and Chill for any amount of time, you know that Kyra can't stop with just one player. So before we get to Josh's player, Kyra, you have an honorable mention for your head scratcher of the week.
I do. I mean, how could I not even? I just couldn't let this one go.
On brand.
Kyra is nothing if not consistent.
I'm always consistent. My computer is gonna mess up.
We talked about it when we started the show.
my camera might die, and I'm gonna list way more players than you want me to.
It's literally Club Fantasy in a nutshell. I adore it.
So Taysom Hill is my head scratcher in this game. Came out of nowhere with this one. If you got him on best ball, if you are so bad at fantasy football that you somehow drafted him and started him, this is the kind of stuff that really pisses me off. Is bad fantasy football players winning. It's like the same kind of person that went 0 RB and started Kareem Hunt and he just absolutely smashed and played against him. That's annoying. He still is just an absolute gadget player. Do not expect this to be a weekly thing, or he just really made the most of his opportunity. He's not the tight end to own in New Orleans. No one really is. He had 81 yards on 4 carries. And what is he even doing having carries? He's not a running back. He is supposed to be a tight end or a quarterback, or I don't even know what he's doing anymore. But the guy had 1 target. He just played 16 out of 61 snaps, ran 4 routes, just can't expect that kind of consistency. So don't be that guy. Don't embarrass yourself and pick up Taysom Hill this week. Don't do it. You're going to regret it.
Should I
You're
get him
put
out of my waiver article?
Oh, shit. You got him in there?
No,
I don't think he's a bad streaming option. Like, here, I agree. He's definitely very gadget-esque, but this is what he is on this offense. Like, it's going to be very hit or miss. But,
yeah,
like, I mean, if they need a jolt, which the Saints needed this past week, you throw someone like a Taysom Hill in there, he essentially becomes we talk all the time about, the Konami code, like the cheat code with quarterbacks that can run. He's kind of that cheat code at tight end because he runs. So, I mean,
do they still give him that eligibility on
No. But that's the thing. You're literally plugging him into the tight end spot or your flex. Like, he's not that quarterback or running back, but you're getting rushing yards from the tight end position, which you don't get any other way.
Right.
I say we all freaked out when Jalen Samuel was tight end eligible for those 2 weeks.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Josh, go ahead and give us your head scratcher.
I do have one more. I don't know.
Oh, I know you do. I will get back to you, lady.
Go ahead, Josh. Sorry.
I'm going to keep this short and simple. It's Aaron Rodgers for me. Like, we all talked, like, even on our ranking show, like, Austin was like, how does everybody have him outside their top 10?
Yeah, Austin, you son of a bitch.
Et cetera. Like, look, and maybe this is just like, let's maybe just temper expectations a little bit, because Matt LaFleur seemingly can never get prepared for a week one. Literally, in the 4 seasons as a head coach, 20 combined points the Packers have scored in 4 games in week one. Like, that is abysmal, and most coaches would get fired for that. Somehow he still manages to win 13 games a year. So we'll see how this plays out. But, like, the rookies dropping passes, no connection at all because Rodgers didn't play. Watson was out in the preseason. Like, Dobbs is getting, balls from Jordan Love. So there's no cohesion here at all. So you've got to be worried from this perspective if you have Aaron Rodgers rostered, if you're a Packers fan, if you're relying on any of these guys. Like, we were all like, oh, hey, Sammy Watkins, big blow-up game. We talked about it on Wednesday. Well, those numbers have kind of been coming down every year, too. I was high on Randall Cobb. That kind of flopped.
Yeah, I mean,
look,
everyone.
I don't know what to expect from this team, in all honesty. And they're playing a first-place schedule without a true number 1 wide receiver. So this is the Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon show, and I'm kind of out on everybody at this point.
So, Josh, you mentioned worried. And, Kyra, this is where I wanted to kick back to your third pick here. Who is more worried right now? The guy who waited until the 11th, 12th round and took Aaron Rodgers, or the guy who reached for Joe Burrow in the 6th, 7th round with 5 turnovers yesterday? So your last head scratcher was the Pittsburgh Steelers and kind of what happened in that game. So if you're looking, and I'm going to get to a user question right after this because he asked about being worried as well, but let's stick with the worried theme. Who are you more worried about? If you waited super late for Rodgers and you're already moving to streaming, or you reached for Joe Burrow and 5 turnovers is on the plate?
Well, for me, I mean, last year, maybe this is a Matt LaFleur thing, where like week one, they just absolutely are trashed the Packers. Because if you remember last year, they got absolutely rolled on by the Saints. Yep. So maybe this is a week one thing, but maybe it's not, because those wide receivers, like I said, Christian Watson, that first play where he just dropped that absolute perfect pass from Aaron Rodgers, this might just be a preview of things to come. You're dealing with rookies, and I don't know if Aaron Rodgers knows that he signed up for this or not, but this is what it's going to be, and I don't know how they have a game like that go on and not try to look for somebody. I mean, I don't know what's going on, Will Fuller. I don't know if that finger is just ripped off at this point or what's happening, but they really just don't have any solid established veteran presence over there. And I think that he's going to struggle. And I'm probably more worried about Aaron Rodgers at this point than I am about Joe Burrow, because he still has his wide receivers despite the concussion from Higgins. The offensive line that they newly put together didn't play well.
Oops.
Did not play well at all. But hopefully that's, those things might correct themselves as the season goes on. Whereas Rodgers' situation, I don't know that it's going to get a ton better. I think that they should lean more heavily on the run game, because that was where their production came from. They have 2 really good backs. They might have to move in that direction more so than Aaron Rodgers being that gunslinger. He doesn't have Davante Adams out there to hyper target. They said, oh, he's going to spread the ball around. He'll figure it out. He's Aaron Rodgers, but week one didn't look too good.
Josh, anything to add?
No, I really don't. I mean, I'm curious to see how this evolves, but for everybody that was like, hey, AJ Dillon not going to catch passes, I think he did okay. I think 5 catches, 6 targets, 40 some odd yards. So
he had more targets than than Aaron Jones.
So, exactly. Yeah. So look, AJ Dillon, we all appreciate he was going to be a value in that sort of dead zone area, and he's proven it so far.
Yeah, right, almost every draft that I had, I could not pull the trigger on Aaron Jones, knowing I could just wait a little bit longer and take AJ Dillon. I thought they were going to be way too close, and they were way too far apart in ADP. So
yeah. That makes a lot of sense. First and foremost, shout out to Rendon Dye. I believe you are a new listener. If you haven't hit subscribe after these guys give you great answers, please hit subscribe. We are giving away an autographed Deebo Samuel jersey on Wednesday because we've just crossed 400 subscribers. But guys, should Rendon be worried about his team? Jalen Hurts at quarterback, Austin Eckler and Alvin Kamara, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, Cole Komet at tight end. We'll get to that in a second. And then slot options with Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, Allen Robinson, Elijah Moore. So I'm going to assume those are all slots and not guys you have to start since they came after the tight end. But let's go on the assumption that he needs to start 2 of these guys. Are you worried about this roster?
Honestly, that roster to me looks kind of humble brag. I still like that roster a lot. Yeah,
well, let's throw his worries at you. DJ Moore didn't quite pop with Baker Mayfield. Cole Komet it all over the entire field. Allen Robinson definitely did not look good, and then Alvin Kamara was kind of boring. I think we can all agree. From Hurts to AJ Brown in this lineup, we're all pretty damn happy with that. We're not worried about Austin Eckler. We're not worried about Alvin Kamara after 1 week. We talked about that. But let's talk about DJ Moore as your wide receiver 2. And are 2 of these options still available to be played in the flex?
Yeah, as for DJ Moore, despite me rushing and putting him into my article for values this upcoming week, he actually had a pretty tough matchup. I'm not necessarily going to just negate DJ Moore and Baker Mayfield to not having the sauce to gel together. I think that he just played a bad matchup. I wouldn't worry too much about him. I don't think it's the Robbie Anderson takeover for the Panthers. DJ Moore is still way too good to not command some targets. He's going to get open. So temper your expectation there for DJ Moore. I would not overreact to that. Javonte Williams, I guess we'll see that tonight.
I was going to say that's the issue. You're still worried. Mm-hmm. There's questions.
I mean, you could have an RB1 sitting right there, and you literally have Eckler, Kamara, and Javonte Williams. What's there to worry about? As for Travis Etienne, I know we're going to talk about him a little further down the way. I know Josh has some things. I also wouldn't be too worried about that. I would not overreact to really anyone on your roster right now. Maybe Cole Komet, maybe not. I don't know. We'll see.
There will definitely be Cole Komet talker later, Rendon. Don't worry about that. Josh, what are your thoughts on Allen Robinson and Elijah Moore? Because Elijah Moore definitely did not pop as the Jets wide receiver 1 like we expected in a game where 50 friggin' passes were thrown, or 60 passes, or whatever the hell it was. And then Allen Robinson, it was notorious what he did on Thursday. So if you already have questions at wide receiver 2, having these guys as your next wide receiver up, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm not that worried about Elijah Moore. I know the Jets line a little banged up, and really it's the same situation with LA. Anytime you're going to get that much pressure in your face, Stafford's going to go where he's comfortable. Where is he comfortable? It's Cooper Kupp. Yeah. So, there were moments where Allen Robinson was open, and it was just like, oh, well, I got to get it to the guy that I know I can trust. Like, they just need to develop that chemistry. Even McVay said it afterwards. Hey, we've got to get this guy the football. We saw it last year when Robert Woods was just kind of like a ghost. Well, the moment McVay said that, Robert Woods had a pretty decent game.
Yeah.
So they're going to go through. They're going to scheme for him. They're going to get open. Stafford's going to build that trust. But the big thing with the Rams, they've got to fix that offensive line, because if they're going to get pressure the way that they were getting pressured without Whitworth, like that's a huge piece that you're removing from that cohesion in that line. And if Stafford's going to get that in his face every single game, then there's going to be a lot of worries. But I'm not worried yet. If I see it about 2 or 3 weeks, then yeah, I'm going to be a little worried. But I think you're fine with Brown. You're definitely fine with DJ Moore, excuse me. Elijah Moore, look, it's still the Jets. You're going to have some ups and downs, but I think we'll be fine.
Okay. Real quick, Gemma, we went over that earlier in the show. Kyra brought up that Jalen Hurts made a point after the game to say, don't worry, Devonta Smith, you're going to get yours. So it's definitely wait and see with Devonta Smith. Patience is the way to go. For my head scratcher, I'm just going to quickly go through this. How the fuck does Indianapolis tie the Houston Texans? This was supposed to be a blowout. The part that bothers me the most is the second biggest Jonathan Taylor fan I know outside of our boy John. 20 plays inside the 20, and they ran a 50-50 run-pass split instead of running Jonathan Taylor. But way worse, 5 plays inside the 5, and 3 of them were passes, and only 1 of them was a Jonathan Taylor run. Fire your offensive coordinator at this point. It's inexcusable. 20 points scored against a team that allowed 26 points per game last year and that you hung 31 on in each of the 2 times you played them last year. It's a problem. Fix it. Get Jonathan Taylor the ball. That's all I have to say about that. Next section, we're calling it the migraine. If you got a hangover, you probably have a migraine to go with it. And some of these players were definitely our migraines. Underwhelming performances, and it could be a prelude of what is to come this season. Kyra, go for it.
Yeah, this one's probably going to upset a lot of people because you drafted this guy with a high draft pick, and it's going to be, I think you're going to be in for a frustrating season, especially compared to last year. And for me, it's going to be Naji Harris. Yesterday, if it wasn't for his touchdown, his receiving touchdown, his fantasy points would have been abysmal. I mean, He scored 10.6. He had 2.3 yards per carry, only 10 carries, 23 yards, not very efficient whatsoever. And only 2 receptions for 3 yards. So this was something that people were concerned about, initially with him, was that his receptions were going to come down. I mean, he was a monster with receptions last year. He beat out like Austin Eckler. I think he was first in receptions, actually. Yeah. And that's something we knew was going to come down. And I understand that Naji Harris is, he's the last of a dying breed, of bell cow, but this is something we kind of saw coming from even last season. Despite his stellar fantasy performances, I think he's just more of a volume bet than it is about his talent. He had a very pedestrian 3.9 yards per carry last year. So we saw the dip. Now we have this foot injury. The offensive line never got better for him. I just don't see the positives coming out. I mean, the positive, I guess, was that the Steelers somehow pulled off a Bengals win against the Bengals,
Yeah.
But I just think it's going to be a long season for them, with a lot of stress of being these games where he just scores. His floor is going to feel really low.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna suck. So I don't feel too good about Naji Harris moving forward, and I would not be thrilled if I spent the draft pick on him.
I will say, as Faith tells just Kyra hi. For those of us that were dumb enough to say he was under 4 yards per carry, it can't get worse. 2.3 yards per carry is worse.
Got worse.
So.
2.3. He's literally just like two. Like
that's all right. It's still a better yards per carry than the guy that I'm about to talk about.
I was just gonna say, Josh, you have another running back that Kyra and I have been fully on board for. Kyra has more fans than I do, so she got way more hate for this because I put out an article just destroying this guy. But please, Josh, talk to us about Cameron Akers. I don't even know.
Yes, someone please.
Yeah, like this is just bad. Like and again, I know we missed time in the preseason, soft tissue injury. Maybe that was still affecting him. Maybe just Darrell Henderson just healed faster from that perspective, but I still think there's lingering effects from this Achilles injury. It was an absolute miracle that he came back as quickly as he did last year, but we see this all the time. Guys come back too quickly from injuries, and sometimes that messes with your physiology, your mentality, etc. And there's no decision-making with him. Like there were rushes in this game where there's a clear hole, and all he wants to do is try to bounce it outside. And we see this a lot with young running backs, that they want to rely on the speed. Well, when you suffer an Achilles injury, sometimes that speed isn't there anymore. So he's got to learn, fall forward, get the yards, live to play another down. And until he realizes that, he is in trouble, and every single fantasy manager that drafted him is in trouble. I had him probably the lowest amongst all of our rankers. I had him outside the top 30. You were down on that lot lower? Okay, cool.
Someone pointed out that I am Fantasy Pro's lowest rated ranker on Cam Akers as well, of the 150 people who ranked Cam Akers.
Fair enough. Well, I'm not on Fantasy Pro, so I might have challenged you for that one. So
I'll have to go look. Yeah.
But yeah, this is going to be a split. It's between, Henderson and Akers, and I think you can even throw Kyra Williams into that. He missed that game due to injury, but you get him going. If Cam Akers is going to have 3 rushes for 0 yards, I think you're going to see a lot more Kyra Williams. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. He, also with Cam Akers, another reason why you didn't see him play much is something that some people may not know is he missed a ton of his blocking assignments, and that really pissed off Sean McVay. With the offensive line playing as bad as it is, and then you're missing your blocking assignments.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It just wasn't the recipe for a win whatsoever. And if you can't block, you can't do those, the football things that don't show up for fantasy stats, you will not be on the field. So
all right, guys. This is the moment of the show Joe Zolo has been waiting for. So it's the migraine.
I feel like we need to pull up here our face string of messages here on YouTube just to tell this full story.
I see Joe over there dying.
If you multiplied Cole Komet's reception yards and touchdowns by 1 million, you'd still have 0. Joe Zolo. We are a very anti-Cole Komet show, and I don't even hate Cole Komet as a person. I don't even know that I hate him as a tight end. I hate him in this system for fantasy football. So here is my quick elevator pitch against Cole Komet, and Kyra, you can refute it if you like. From our friend, David Gautieri, Guru Fantasy World. If you're not following him, go follow him. Cole Komet, I had to go look this up. This wasn't from David. Cole Komet played 48 snaps yesterday out of 58, I believe it was. So he was on the field. Only 16 routes run. Only 1 target on those 16 routes. So I'm not going to bust his balls on only running routes on 33%. If you saw that field yesterday, it makes sense. I am going to be worried that if your second best option on the team ran 16 routes and was only targeted on 6% of them, that's going to be a problem. He was 6th on his own team in targets, 2nd in the tight end room in targets. They don't use their tight end. They targeted the tight end 3 times in the entire game. I don't care what the weather is. You can't blame the weather, Gemmo, because another tight end got 2 targets. 2 wide receivers, I think one was Equanimous St. Brown, got 3 targets. Cole Komet got 1 fucking target. I'm not saying he's going to be a run blocker every week, but if he's only going to see targets on 6% of his throws, that under 80 targets that I've been guaranteeing is looking very, very good. They're not all going to be this bad, but tell me another tight end that has top 5 upside that has 0 weak potential as well. Kyra, do you want to fight?
Hold on. Yeah,
put him up.
In Scranton right now. Get the hell over here.
I really should not challenge the Philly girl to a fight because I know she would beat the absolute shit out of me. But I am far enough away right now that I feel safe. So
I have more to say about this a little bit later in the segment, just because
you know what, and I did see that later on. So yep.
Yeah. So I'll get to that. But just saying, I mean, Darnell Mooney is their number 1 wide receiver far and away, and he had 3 targets yesterday. So the 2 targets is just like it just.
And I'm going to defend Darnell Mooney later. So yeah, let's save it for later. But for my migraine, and it's not my migraine, it is every one of you dummies' migraine. Cole Komet. And you know what helps migraine and what helps a hangover? A shot of espresso. This is the quality performance that really got the juices flowing. Kyra, I've been picking on you for a few moments now. Go ahead and talk about your guy.
So the shot of espresso that I'm going to agree with Josh when it gets down to his, because that probably would have been mine. So I pivoted a little bit. But for me, it was DeAndre Swift. He made me feel really good about his 2nd round draft capital, because if this is how he continues to play the rest of the season, that's a 1st round grade, no doubt about it. And maybe it had something to do, with the poor rushing defense on the Eagles' part. But he passed the eye test for me. He looks super explosive. He just looks electric. He looks like one of the best players on the field. He's such a good playmaker, and with such a dominant offensive line, I think you could definitely expect some more of this. As frustrating as it was, though, to see how much Jamal Williams was used, especially, in goal line situations, you would watch DeAndre Swift take the ball all the way down the field, make all these great plays just to drop right before the end zone and watch Jamal Williams take the goal line touches. Super frustrating.
That was a little rough.
The first vulture of the day, I'm pretty sure it was Jamal Williams. So F you, Jamal Williams, as cool as you are. That was annoying.
I was just going to say, I don't know that I can co-sign F you, Jamal Williams, because he is a boss.
I know. I love Jamal Williams. He's such an easy person to like, but in that moment, I was just like, come on, man. But at some point, I just think the Lions are going to have to give more work to Swift regardless, because he makes shit happen. 175 total yards. He averaged 6.7 yards per carry. Even if you were to remove his 50-yard play of broken coverage, he still had 15 rushing attempts, 144 yards. I mean, I've been beating the drum for him all off season. I've taken him in the 2nd round absolutely everywhere. So I'm just happy that he actually delivered on his price, at least here in week 1. And for all intensive DFS purposes, he was the RB3 on the slate. So yeah, he was an absolute dog. He was the play.
Oh, Josh, who are you happy about?
I know this is going to probably ruffle some feathers in the chat because our man Joe Zolo is not a big fan of his. But for me, it's Saquon Barkley. I mean, Kyra, you talked about, second round guys. Like for me, it was if I can't get Swift, if I can't get Aaron Jones, it's Saquon Barkley. And like you could just feel the energy there. Like we understand the Giants dog shit team. We get it. There's no true number one option. But we also know Saquon's really good as a receiver. And he led the team in targets. You take away that 68-yard run, he still had 17 for 96 yards, I believe. So, that still great average. He's playing with juice. Like, you could see it on the sideline. Like, Brian Dable, there's an energy with this team. He's got these guys believing in what they're trying to do, and they're hyped. My only issue, really, and this is an outside Saquon thing, get Kadarius Toney involved. My God.
I don't know.
Outside of Barkley, he's the best playmaker on this team. Yep. 2 carries for 23 yards. By the way, he's a wide receiver.
Did he have? He didn't even have a target, did he?
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
It's and I don't get. I get. People want to bring up the attitude and all these things. Sure. How many other teams have dealt with diva receivers? We get it. Just suck it up, deal with it. Get this guy the freaking football because he's good with the guy. He's good with the ball in his hands. But back to Saquon. If you drafted him, you have got to be feeling exponentially confident because you probably took a wide receiver 1, i.e. Kupp, Jefferson, Chase, maybe Diggs, Adams. Guess what? All 5 of those guys fucking
smash.
They smashed this week.
It was an elite wide receiver week.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
Get to that,
just from your wide receiver 1 and Saquon in the second round, you scored close to 80 points.
Definitely probably won your week.
That's freaking awesome. So you got to be feeling great going into this. And as an Eagles fan with the possibility of facing Saquon after we just got torched by DeAndre Swift, tough days
doesn't
ahead.
Feel good.
Kira, hit on that wide.
What's that?
Well, no,
you could feel super good about Saquon too, because even though you could say the Giants, maybe they're going to be a terrible team, he stays involved regardless. He had a 33% target share. You got to feel really good about Saquon Barkley making it back into elite RB1 territory.
And never forget, the injury last year was a freak thing. It's not like he got hurt on a play. He got rolled up on by his own guy. It's not like they love to throw injury prone around so much, and I don't think it is appropriate with Barkley. But Kyra, you mentioned the elite wide receiver week, and that was another one of your notes. So go ahead and talk about that a little.
Yeah, I just can't say enough about how dominant the first round wide receiver was this week.
Yeah.
You had Justin Jefferson, absolute smash, Stephon Diggs, AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams. It was, damn.
Yeah.
This elite wide receiver production this week from the elite guys. And I want to say this was another one of my this was. I guess we got to get the juice about it is Cornell Patterson. I guess he's really continuing his success of last year, which is crazy. 22 rushing attempts, 120 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 targets, 3 receptions, only 16 yards, but he was super involved. And I don't know if it's, as old as he is, he hasn't had the same wear and tear as every other running back in the league. So I don't know, man, maybe this is something that can keep continuing because the Atlanta Falcons need playmakers. So that was.
I would say don't get caught up in.
He was so
don't
late.
get caught up in this volume. And I agree, he doesn't have the trend. This is exactly what happened last year. Was everybody got really hyped by early volume, and then when he went to normal RB2 volume, everyone made it out like he was a bust, and he wasn't. But I absolutely love what we saw out of Patterson. And you mentioned elite wide receivers. That just kind of lends itself to the guy who got me going was Michael Thomas. It was great to see him on the field again. 8 targets, caught 5 of them. But what I thought was way more important, and me and Josh were talking about this before the show, I wasn't sure how he and Jarvis Landry were going to coexist. They coexist perfectly. When you have Landry running underneath routes from the slot and Thomas running slant routes from the outside, it works perfectly. 2 of the team's 3 red zone targets went to Michael Thomas, and he caught both of them for touchdowns. So I am all about Michael Thomas in the rebound role. He may not be the 180 target wide receiver 1 again, but he could be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. And I think he showed that already in week 1 against a very bad Atlanta team. But again, it's not like the Saints look great either if they can improve.
And Winston kept moving the ball downfield too. That's why Alvin Kamara didn't have the great game. It's not like he was dumping it short. He wanted to take it downfield. So I still feel good about Olave. He's a rookie, he's young, but don't think that he's just to be forgotten about here. good news for everyone all around. Jarvis, Michael Thomas, and Olave.
Yeah. There are a couple of waiver questions in the chat. Waivers are actually a part of the show towards the end. I'm going to get to those, so just bear with us a little bit on that. The next section is actually the section that pretty much inspired this entire show.
I got to say, I'm pretty proud of myself with all these segment names. It flowed really well.
Segment names are great, and this might be the most important segment. And Josh, I'm going to have you do the other side of this coin, the ones you added for yourself. I'm going to have you do those at the end by yourself. So we are sticking with this segment calling Chill the Fuck Out. And how we are looking at it is a bad performance from a good player. It was the schedule, or it was something weird that happened for week 1, and you just need to chill the fuck out. So, Kyra, who is your chill the fuck out?
Yeah, so I guess we'll go back to probably the segment Joe's been waiting for all day. Is I said I would honestly chill the fuck out on everyone who played in that Chicago versus San Francisco game. Yes, this does include Cole Komet. I know that hurts and triggers some people, but I just can't fault anyone for how they were utilized in such bad weather conditions. I think it was a blip on the schedule for me. I'm definitely not sitting here thinking Darnell Mooney is just negated to dust. Justin Fields threw the ball literally just 17 times and had 8 completions. So, no, sorry, that's just super fluky for me.
So let me just chime in with Mooney real quick, because I know you have other players, because I actually agree with you wholeheartedly. I'm still down on Comet for all the reasons I said. Mooney was still second on the team in targets, and first was a running back. So he was still first among wide receivers, or tied for first, in a game where he could not go deep. That field was an absolute mess. So his game was never going to work in this game. And was it Travarius, I think his first name is, Ward, locked him down and played great corner because he could never get his footing. So it was a great corner play in bad weather. The circumstances could not have been worse for Darnell Mooney. So I am actually 100% on your side of don't fade Darnell Mooney. We will agree to disagree for 17 weeks.
San Fran is also good against tight ends. Let's not forget San Francisco is a good defense.
Yeah, and if they faced a good one, it probably would have been an issue. We'll talk about that later. But here, you had another guy who Philly fans have a love-hate relationship with, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, dare I say Carson Wentz here as well? I mean, I got to commend him. He had a great game. He did really well. I doubt we see this kind of production from Carson Wentz, though, on a week-to-week basis. He could be the definition here of boom bust. His hero ball style of play just always kind of puts him in that category where, you know, sometimes he ends up as like the QB3 of the week, which I'm pretty sure he was. And sometimes he is just nowhere to be found. The interceptions rack up and he's forcing the ball in bad places. But I can't crown him after this week when that was just a Jacksonville Jaguars defense, you know? So we'll see. We'll see there.
Wentz does have the Lions next week, so
yeah. I was going to say this was a perfect segue because, well, I was just going to say I want to kind of segue because this is why I didn't want to get Michael's question up right away. But Michael needs a replacement for Dak and wasn't sure if he wants to stream. You almost certainly have to. And spoiler alert to my waiver article, it's 2 hero ball guys, Jameis Winston and Carson Wentz, especially with Wentz having Detroit coming up. So those would be the guys I was targeting. If you don't think anyone else in your league is going to go quarterback, I don't know that I would blow waiver priority on those guys. I maybe blow a little bit of fab. I would not blow waiver priority on those guys at all.
Yeah, I also do have another.
Yeah, I saw. Yeah, I just wanted to. I saw it was a great when you had Wentz on there. It was great for the quarterback needy.
I just didn't want you to miss it.
Nope, I got you. Go ahead.
But so another one I want to chill the fuck out on is CEH, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Do we think this is legit? You know, 2 touchdown performance. They're all receiving touchdowns. The Chiefs led this game heavily, and he still only saw 7 rushing attempts to, you know, Pacheco's 12. And then you got Jerick McKinnon mixed in there. It'll be great to see this backfield get figured the hell out. But if I have CH, I might sell high.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to come back to your tight end thing. Josh, go ahead and talk about chill the fuck out.
I mean, for me, it's Travis Etienne. We personally at Club Fantasy, we got a lot of start-sit questions around Travis Etienne just on like our YouTube comments. So obviously it's kind of a polarizing name, you know, rookie season washed away last year because of the foot injury, you know, J-Rob tearing his Achilles towards the end of the year, you know, missing all of camp. And then, you know, heading into this week, it was, hey, J-Rob's good to go. We're not going to put him on the PUP list. So it's like, okay, what kind of experience are we going to get back? Because, you know, it's a torn Achilles. very different athlete from someone like a Cam Akers. But we also know how effective J-Rob is. So if he's able to bounce back, there's some room to grow here. He scored 2 touchdowns. Obviously not great if you're an ETN manager, but I came across this tweet from Dwayne McFarland, and to me it's encouraging. I mean, ETN played 51% of the snaps to J-Rob's 49, but when you look at the 2-minute offense and short yardage situations, ETN was on the field 100% of the time. And those are numbers that, if that type of usage keeps going, then good things are going to happen. Like, chalk it up to a bad week, matchup plays, whatever it may be. ETN, I think, is going to be fine. You drafted him as an RB2. I still think that's what his ultimate ceiling is. But if they continue to use him as more of a receiver, he can definitely sneak into that low-end RB1 territory.
Joe is not.
I had to laugh at that.
Trevor Lawrence's ability to improve as a passer with the field vision of Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, and let's not forget, Travis Etienne hasn't played football in a full year. He had a couple bad drops there. He could have had a touchdown that would have saved his fantasy day a little bit more too. So I'm pumping the brakes also on Travis Etienne. I'm not too worried about it.
Kyra, I want you to get to the tight ends in 1 second, but if we don't give my guy some show time after what happened this weekend, our good buddy Elixirs, the largest Young Wei Koo fan in the history of the world. Josh, you want to walk the new viewers through that real quick?
Oh, yeah. Joe tried to spend my money and say that if Young Wei Koo scored 20 points, I'd have to buy a Young Wei Koo jersey for our man Elixirs. Depending on the format, he could have crossed 20. He could have not crossed 20, but
well, he was kicking a 60-yarder at the end of the game.
Yeah,
he was going for 20 at that point.
He was going for 20, so
I actually didn't notice the Young Wei Koo. I didn't play him or against him anywhere. Did he just absolutely smash?
2 50s to start the game and then a 40 right after. So if you go based on distance, he started the game off with 14 points.
This is why I'm so happy that a lot of my leagues I've convinced no kickers, which will hurt some feelings. So I'm sorry, but that sucks.
It's absolutely fine. So, Kyra, you kind of brought up how fluky the tight end week was, and this is something I've been pitching forever, is that it only takes a touchdown. So just kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, especially for DFS purposes, this pulls me to a point sometimes it is just not worth paying up because such fluky stuff happens, Travis Kelce, he did finish as number 1 tight end on the week. That is not a shocker. That's, back to business as usual.
Yep.
But let's look at the next couple of names we have here. The second best tight end on the week was OJ Howard. So how the fuck did that happen? No one saw that one. 2 targets, 2 touchdowns. Holy shit.
Tight end 2.
Yeah. Unreal. He just was cut from the Bills the other day. And now
killing my Brevin Jordan share.
Oh, I was heartbroken for you, brother.
Hurts. It hurts for sure. And then, tight end 3 on the week. Good old Taysom Hill. Really, just how the hell does this happen? Then this one doesn't shock me because I like this guy as a streamer, but it was Gerald Everett. That's pretty believable. Tight end 4. Okay, I'll take that. The matchup was good, so that makes sense. Dalton Schultz also believable, but now no Dak Prescott. That sucks. This one intrigues me. At tight end 6 was Pat Freiermuth. He was actually pretty involved. He had 10 targets in this game. So that's someone to keep an eye on. That was not somebody that was thought to be anywhere close to top 5 tight end on this week. So that was great. Darren Waller also makes sense. I think it's actually surprising that he wasn't higher given his matchup. Zach Ertz, tight end 8, not that surprising either, but Conklin, Andrews at 10. That sucks, especially against a really good matchup.
Yeah, how does that happen?
What are you doing at the 10th ranked tight end against the Jets? That just pisses me off.
Yeah, I knew people were really high on Waller, and I got it, but I also really like the Chargers defense. But 10 against the Jets is inexcusable. Before we move on, Josh, you kind of brought up how chill the fuck out goes both ways. So there are bad performances from good players, but there are also good performances from probably bad players. So go ahead and list some of the guys that you would chill the fuck out on the other way. These maybe shouldn't be the waiver priorities this week.
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of throw these in as sort of we'll see how the rest of the show plays out in terms of time, but I'm not going to dive too much into it. But I mean, Devin Duvernay, wide receiver 9, Robbie Anderson, wide receiver 10, Dontrell Hilliard, the backup to Derrick Henry, RB7. Jamal Williams, we know, scored 2 touchdowns, RB15. The Maserati got out of the garage. Marcus Mariota, QB14. And then, of course, the aforementioned OJ Howard, Taysom Hill. The only one of these guys that I think may be able to sustain it Mariota as a QB2 range, like top 15 play. Just again, it's that rushing upside. He had over 70 rushing yards, and you want that from a quarterback. I don't know if it's going to keep going because again, if the Falcons just keep losing, they're eventually going to give the reins to Desmond Ridder. But they were in a position to win this game. Obviously, they didn't because the Saints are just a better team. But Jamal Williams is going to continue to be a thorn because he's going to get those types of short yardage.
He was the one I was going to fight with you about because he did average 10 fantasy points a game in PPR last year. So I'm not a.
He's going to keep seeing usage as long as he's healthy, as long as Swift is healthy. This is going to be a two-back system. So.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about Jamal Williams is like, hey, if you have DeAndre Swift or you just have an open roster spot, I wouldn't mind stashing Jamal Williams because if in the event DeAndre Swift gets hurt, we've seen him be able to have the ability to have a 3-down role. And with that great offensive line for the Lions, I don't think it's a bad call to pick up Jamal Williams.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to the user question from before we get into my quick waiver segment is who is the number one waiver wire? So I'm going to say, and I think you guys might agree with me here, I don't know that anybody popped so big this week that they are worth a high waiver priority that I would like blow a lot of fab or blow waiver priority at all this week. Well, for me, if I'm looking running back, I am looking at Jamal Williams and Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson should not be on waivers anywhere. At wide receiver, I think I'm leaning Julio Jones just because we're already seeing the Chris Godwin issue. Now, my next segment is going to be deeper waivers, but Kyra, you were going to chime in.
Yeah, so two that I would actually kind of make a priority is situationally based. If I own Naji Harris or Elijah Mitchell, I'm probably making it a priority to get Jalen Warren for Najee or Jeff Wilson Jr. or Jordan Mason if I have Elijah.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. We didn't really hear much about apparently Najee's. We're not too concerned, but yeah. I'm concerned because I think that Naji went into this with this Lisfranc injury initially. Now he hurt his foot again in this game. I'm not going to be caught, with no running back if in the event he misses a lot of time again at some point this season, or this is a nagging thing. I would be picking up Jalen Warren and Elijah Mitchell, another guy that, he's always hurt and this sucks. And that's just kind of the unluckiness of the San Francisco backfield, but I wouldn't mind picking up Jeff Wilson Jr. or Jordan Mason.
Yeah, and Josh, you actually added both of those guys to my list a little bit. Do you want to talk about either of those two as well? Or
I added them.
Oh, it was you who added? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. Okay. No, I didn't realize.
Yeah, because somebody. It was funny. We were talking about this beforehand, and I was like, "Yeah, just throw out one or two." And Ryan's like, "You do realize it has to be a top 5 for me, right?"
So Josh,
and I pop in the show sheet, and I see a 6 and 7, and I'm like, "Ryan, you're breaking your own damn rules. What's going on here?"
Explain here, Josh, because I'm like, I just told this motherfucker I wanted it to be a top 5 list.
Yeah, I just added them because I felt they were relevant. So
perfect. No, so Kyra, here's my only takeaway from that is I did want to keep it to top 5, and they are both available in 90% or more leagues, which is going to be my segment here in just a second. My only issue is I get the Dearness Johnson Willies when we dive into backup running back. So if you could get them cheap and you are the manager who has their starters, I'm okay with it. They are not the guys I'm playing major keep away with right now. So guys, we're going to jump into what we are calling the deep waiver ads. We want to look for guys who are available in 14 and even 16 team leagues. This segment is going to be sponsored by Connect Go. If you are not familiar with Connect Go, I recommend you check it out. Links should be in the description. It's available on Apple and Android. And basically what Connect Go does is it lets you partner with your favorite fantasy analyst, myself included. And for a small fee, you can set up time to do text chats or even video chats where we can get together, talk about waiver ads, talk about trades, talk about anything fantasy football related that you want to talk about. Our time is your time, and we are there to connect with you and partner with you to help you win a fantasy championship. So I highly recommend, if you're having trouble with the fantasy season, check out Connect Go. There's a lot of people on there. A good friend of the show, Stepmom Lauren's on there. You'd be really surprised of the people who are willing to connect with you and help you this fantasy season. So give Connect Go a try. So I was looking for players on ESPN leagues, and I recently saw a study that more than 65% of our industry is still playing on ESPN. So I went with their rostership percentage. These guys are all available in more than 90% of ESPN leagues. So I started with Corey Davis. So Corey Davis, not a very popular name, but he had 9 targets on 59 attempts. The Jets are a team that are probably going to have to throw the ball quite a bit. Curtis Samuel led the team in targets, plus had 4 carries, 15 opportunities in the entire game. That's very big for a guy they were excited about last year. And overall, this team threw the ball enough that they were able to sustain 3 wide receivers, and even Logan Thomas and Antonio Gibson got in on the action. Donovan Peoples-Jones led the team in targets, being the second option to an alpha sometimes works out very well because teams have to worry about Amari Cooper. I'm not saying he's going to hit 11 targets every week, but Donovan Peoples-Jones with over 25 or over 33% of the team's target share, that could be a fun one to look at. And then Kyle Phillips.
60 was a pretty impressive showing on those 11 targets.
Exactly. And don't forget, Carolina has very good corners in secondary. So 6 for 60 is almost better against Carolina. And then finally, Kyle Phillips, which was, I think, Josh's kind of motivation for this segment in general. Very good week, led the team with 9 targets, 25% target share. You have to expect Robert Woods is going to be more involved. Traylon Burks kind of already got his. I think where we may have overestimated was Nick Westbrook-Akine is clearly the 4th wide receiver, and they are not going to use their tight ends as much as we thought they were. This is going to be a 3 wide receiver team. So those are the guys at wide receiver. And then finally, I threw in Ty Montgomery. Josh, you kind of hit the nail on the head in the group chat yesterday. We're looking for the next James White. Well, Ty Montgomery looked awful James Whitey yesterday. And if that's going to be his role in this offense, I think it was a 4-target day. You don't need him to carry the ball. Targets are worth a lot more, and he found the end zone. So 4 wide receivers, 1 running back. Those are the guys I'm looking for in deeper leagues, all available in 90% or more ESPN fantasy leagues. We're going to end the show with quick Monday night predictions. Josh, take it away.
Denver is going to steamroll Seattle. That's the prediction. But I do want to bring up this question here from Jackson. Because
I completely forgot about
it segues perfectly into it. DK, 7.5 points tonight. I think that is very possible. He is the wide receiver 1 there. We know Geno Smith, kind of not great. But in games where Geno quarterbacked this team last year, DK was still usable. So I like 8 points, 7.5 points. I think that's it can happen. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. Again, they're going to have to throw the ball to keep up. We know how stubborn Pete Carroll can be. He's going to run the football no matter what, but they still have to balance it out. They're going to throw the football. DK is going to be more than likely the very first read option there. They don't really have much anything else. I mean, yes, there's Tyler Lockett, sure. But again, it's DK, it's Lockett, it's everybody else. So I think 7.5 is well within the realm of possibilities for you, Jackson.
Yeah, and let's not forget how bad the Seahawks defense was last year. I mean, they were at the bottom in like every measurable possible, whether it was the passing game, the run game. I'm just reading this here. They allowed an NFC high of 265 passing yards per game, and they also ranked in the bottom half of the league against the run. They allowed about 113 yards per contest rushing. So this could just be time for the Denver Broncos to flex what they got, so hopefully it's not a boring one. These so far the primetime games have been kind of meh, but I think that Russell Wilson, he's gonna show them how to cook there in Seattle today.
Yep, I agree. I'll go as far as giving a score 31-10, Denver over Seattle. I think
I'd be afraid if I was facing Russell Wilson, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Denver Broncos defense, like everything, McManus, anyone. I wouldn't feel super confident heading into my matchup that I just won that week if I have a decent lead. I think it's going to be a good game tonight.
All right.
Oh, yeah, I've got one where I'm waiting on Denver to potentially get like 20 points and I'll win. And I'm like, you know what? I could actually see that happening.
It's not out of the realm of possibilities.
Exactly.
This game offers a lot of fantasy upside here tonight. So
Cortland Sutton should go bananas.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton to the moon. All 5 of their defensive backs. I
was just going to say, not very great coverage in Seattle. Let's lightning round this and alleviate some anxiety for some of our listeners here. Traded Dallas Goedert and James Robinson straight up from Mark Andrews. Already has Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift half PPR. Did he win that trade?
W.
Big W.
Big W.
And then Elixir's had to preface that he was helping somebody else out here because he knows where he's going to get himself in trouble here. Helping his dad out. He played Comet. Should he drop Comet for Austin Hooper, Tyler Higbee, Mike Gesicki? There's also Taysom Hill with dual eligibility. He knows we're not in on Taysom Hill. I personally am okay with Higbee on the target share. I don't know that I would necessarily – I would drop Comet immediately. I don't think the targets are going to be there. Higbee would be my number 1 priority. Gesicki still worries me, and Hooper, I think, may be cooked already. So,
I guess I'll chime in. I was waiting on Kyra, but for me, it's If I'm dropping Comet for any of those guys, it's Higbee. I'm Ryan. Obviously, I'm on your side here. I don't think Comet's going to be much of anything, but you're going to see some spike games here and there, just like you will with any of these tight ends from the 6 to 25 range. Hooper, Gesicki, you're pretty much dead in the water. I never really had too much confidence in them anyway. Taysom Hill, as I mentioned earlier in the show, like you're going to get some pop weeks because he's their gadget guy, and because of his rushing, that offers a cheat code at the tight end position. Higbee is going to see some targets. But man, he looked awful even with those targets.
He didn't look great, but volume is volume.
Yeah, volume is volume. I mean, I get it, and there's a good chance that he's going to see more volume than Comet. So, just because I think that offense is going to throw the football more, but I'm also okay kind of waiting it out with Comet at least for the first few weeks because I don't think Higbee is going to be anything super special.
Here, I know you're with Comet. I'm going to have you actually answer 2 quick user questions. We talked about both of them, and you covered both. So we have our new friend Gator J. What happened with Devonta Smith?
Yeah, so as far as the Devonta Smith thing, I think that this was more of a fluky thing. I think that Jalen Hurts really just wanted to establish that connection with A.J. Brown in this game. I don't have many answers for you why he wasn't targeted more. Honestly, I would not be freaked out about him. If you have a better option to play above him for right now, then you can. But I think that this is not going to be something that we see a lot. That ball is going to get spread around a lot more. I don't think A.J. Brown is not sustaining a 45% target share all season long. So Devontae Smith will bounce back at some point here.
All right. And then Jackson C wants to know, should he be panicked about Mike Williams?
Yeah. I'm not going to answer this emotionally or anything because I am pissed off about Mike Williams, but I wouldn't be panicked just yet. I know that they spread the ball. But let's wait and see here. Mike Williams is one of their top playmakers. We've seen him do it last year, so I'm not concerned. I'd be still keeping him in my lineup. I personally have him in a lot of my lineups. I'm not taking him out and replacing him. His offense is too great, and especially without Keenan Allen, I cannot forgive myself when he, explodes like he did last year at certain points. So
perfect. And then Josh and the show answering McSweet. What happened to Travis Etienne? You were answering in the chat, but
I just threw it up in the chat. But yeah, don't worry too much right now. I mean, the snap counts are there. I mean, it's essentially going to be a split, and Etienne's going to see some receiving work. So I mean, and really, that's why you drafted him. Short yardage, 2-minute. He's on the field all the time, so they're going to use him. I mean, the TDs just went J-Rob's way. It's kind of the same thing with like Swift, Jamal Williams. The touchdowns went to Jamal Williams. Swift was lucky enough; he got one as well. So. Don't panic too much. I wouldn't yet. So.
Someone who we didn't talk about though that I just am realizing right now, just sitting here. What are we worried a little bit about Derrick Henry? I mean, he didn't have a very good game at all. The offense really didn't get it moving. You lose A.J. Brown. You don't have really great playmaker to move that ball. They struggled against the Giants. I don't know.
And I was just going to say that is interesting when you look at it as against the Giants, because I wouldn't necessarily freak out about Derrick Henry in a normal week. 21 carries. He still got his volume. We need to see a little bit more efficiency. Certainly wasn't as involved in the passing game as we were hoping he was going to be. So definitely a good one to bring up.
Yeah, he's a head scratch. He was a bit of a head scratcher for me, I guess, I missed out on.
I guess we'll cross that one for next week. So, guys, we appreciate every one of you. If you're new to Club Fantasy, we recommend you hit subscribe. We are giving away an autographed Deebo Samuel jersey on Wednesday. If your YouTube profile is not public, make it public, or at least DM somebody you see on the show here that you subscribe. We'll make sure you get entered into the drawing. We are going to be doing this show every Monday at 11 o'clock, where we're going to talk about who's bothering us and try to help you with what's bothering you. We also go live on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays for DFS lineup questions. Basically, you need to be following Club Fantasy. We are here to help you get better. We also have articles dropping every single day of the week from Tuesday through Saturday. Club Fantasy is where it's at to help you win some fantasy football this season. We appreciate each and every one of you. For Josh Hudson, for Kyra Wiaterowski, and for myself. You can see our ats. Well, not my at because I hate Comet, but we'll worry about that later. If you need more help, hit us up on Twitter. You won't find 3 more responsive people. And if you want some one-on-one help, find me on Connect Go. Trust me, the links are in the description. Have a great day.